everyone. We are now at, well, we're 1 minute till the top of the hour at 9:59, so I could give it another minute. Hopefully everyone has had an opportunity to take a look at our deck. If not, I'll run through as usual some of the highlights and lowlights that we've had. Again, as I always say, this is not comprehensive of all we're doing, but I do like to go through it and also give a little recognition to those who have put forth the effort to drive some of these D&I initiatives. So if you all tuned in to our virtual contribute, we had 3 D&I sessions, well, actually more than 3, but 3 D&I main session events that went on. How to participate with an ERG and what they are, led by Alex Henselka. We also had our women's panel. There were 2 sessions. We had great leaders and on each session, and it was great discussion led by our women's group, ERG. We also had ERG roundtables that happened. That's all the ERGs that participated in those, and the numbers were great. We've seen a great increase as well in the numbers of participation for ERGs and the sign up to participate in future meetings. We are now adding in belonging as the next iteration of broadening diversity and inclusion. I would like to thank Emily for her help in adding in additional content to really make a lot of the information we have and our goal clear. We're also doing what we're doing in D&I recruiting. On our last call, if you tuned in last month, there was a discussion of what's going on as it relates to diversity, inclusion, and recruiting. Katarina took the leap forward and had agreed to step in and move that project forward and drive that. She worked closely with that CNI, and the page is great. You'll see the issue there. And there's now a standalone page for that. So also we have GitLab, our D&I annual report. We're working to compile what the annual report will include, all the things we're doing with the diversity and inclusion since April of 2019 until now, and we'll continue to move forward to have one each year that we will produce. If you click on the link, there are also examples of other company D&I reports in there if you would like to see what one looks like. We have role modeling our behaviors. I would like to give a shout out to Chris Reynolds for adding in this paragraph in the section with really gives a great content in addition to our tips for building an inclusive culture here at GitLab. We have D&I Live Learning that is coming up in June. You will see more information added into that issue. We also have a Women in Sales Mentoring pilot. I would like to give recognition to Carolyn Betnars for this and Lorna for working on this, the pilot, and there are others that have worked on it as well. So if I've left you out, please forgive me. We also have our D&I live stream that if you tuned in last month to our call, it hadn't taken place yet, but now the YouTube link is there if you would like to hear Marcus and Ryan O'Neill and the conversation we had of what D&I recruiting looks like in the partnership. And lastly, we have tracking of our diversity and inclusion survey results. You will see additional issues added into that where our e-group, our different business partners, we go by department and divisions, you'll see different actions added into those where we'll be tracking the results moving forward so that you can see how we're doing and responding to the survey. So hopefully that gives you just, again, some highlights and lowlights of what we're doing in the space of diversity and inclusion. And we have our first question from Rupert. I'm not sure if Rupert is on the phone call, but if not, I'll read it for you. All right, so Rupert has a question where the UX research team is looking to increase the % of people from underrepresented groups in our first look of UX research panel. We'd really appreciate it if you could share the sign up link with your network or in any communities you're a part. Participants can sign up for invites to both paid and unpaid usability tests, user interviews, surveys, and more. And Sid has a comment in there, and I don't know if you want me to verbalize it, Sid, or if you would like to speak to it.
I can do that. Yeah, thanks to Candace, you, and Emily for getting the belonging MR merged. I think that was a great collaboration, and I'm glad it's merged before this call.
Thank you. And it looks like Helen has a tweet comment following that.
Yeah, it's a link to a tweet I posted earlier following Rupert's message. Feel free to retweet or edit it as you like.
And Helen, I hate to put you on the spot, but I know you had a team member. We have our toolkit that we have provided for diversity inclusion as it relates to baby showers and a few other things. And so I don't know if you want to give a shout out to Daisy and the link that you have provided me, but I would love for you to speak to it if you would like to.
Yeah, absolutely. So Daisy McClatt had a little girl 7 weeks ago today. It's her 7-week birthday. Before she went, she recorded a video on LinkedIn about her experiences at GitLab over the last couple of years, how she was supported in general from moving to the States to the UK, and also how the company has supported her during her pregnancy. I'll drop a link into the doc. It's only a 2-minute video, but it's really good and pretty powerful, I think.
Thank you so much. Do we have any follow-up questions after what we have here from Rupert, or any comments or discussions that we want to bring up as it relates to diversity and inclusion, or things that are top of mind? I know we have a lot of independent things that are going on, because with everyone owning diversity and inclusion, there's so many things we're moving forward. Our e-group has action items that they're working on. The all directs are working on things as well. So, you know, all of the engagement as it relates to diversity and inclusion is greatly appreciated. I know Juliana has recently moving forward with publishing an MR where she's working on some global support as it relates to how we communicate and, you know, things globally. So Juliana, would you like to speak to that?
Sure, Candace, thanks. I've been working in partnership with Brittany, and we're essentially creating a cross-cultural collaboration guide. We've drawn on research from cultural collaboration experts in professional settings, Aaron Meyer and Gert Hofstede. I'm sure I'm butchering that name, my apologies. And essentially based on their research, we're creating GitLab cultural dimensions to help guide cross-cultural collaboration in the workplace. So we're working on the second iteration now, and we'll share with everyone as soon as that's published for visibility, and feel free to contribute. I'll go ahead and link the MR and the agenda doc so everyone can see.
Thank you so much. Nicole, you have a question you want to verbalize?
Not exactly a question, but more an observation. We had the survey that went out that asked people if they were participating in D&I events. Product had a low participation rate. So during our meeting, it was asked, like, you know, was anyone willing to say why they weren't participating? And a couple themes came up. One was they really weren't sure of what was available and what the purpose of each available thing was. Other people had tried to attend like the monthly D&I meeting and were like not necessarily connecting with it because it's, you know, this meeting is very tactical, like here's what we're up to. And we mentioned that there's ERGs, but we don't, I think maybe if we had a slide or something that pointed out, like here, if you're looking to participate in something a little more, you know, hands-on instead of tactical and informatory, you might want to go to ERG groups or the Slack channel or other things. There's been mention of like doing a newsletter or other things. I know we've got the D&I page right now, but again, that's very tactical. Do we have any methods for helping people understand what all their options are so that maybe we could increase participation if that is thematically the same for other groups where they're not quite sure where they could fit in and what their options are?
First, thank you for, you know, being a representative for D&I, being an ambassador of sorts, and bringing the information back of what your themes were from your group. What I would say to that is that we could think about maybe a simple way of adding some information to our pages. I know, of course, we have our standalone D&I page, we have our event summary page of what we're doing in the space of D&I, and we also have the events and things that pop up. But, you know, what a resource I think would look like is just maybe a page full of just resources, join here, because there's so many things that you can do and be engaged with. The tactical piece, as you stated, you know, is very tactical, and, you know, so we maybe adding a page of resource links, and what people could, how people could join in that way. Also maybe suggestions for future things that would make it easier. Maybe there's that form as well. And if you have any suggestions that your team has said, I would love to hear those, because maybe I could partner with Leanne to maybe automate something that will make it a little bit easier to stay informed.
Yeah, nobody had any specific stuff. It was more of just a lack of understanding what was available. And when we mentioned like, hey, there's ERGs in this, they're like, okay, exactly, how do I get involved? And so we had to point them at the page. So I know that you definitely post in Slack and other places a lot, but I know there's also a lot of messages that come through. So I'll kind of ask around for more ideas. But if anybody else on this call as well has ideas about just a rate at which to repost information, and I'll look at the page and see if I can suggest an MR to maybe make it a little less tactical on the DNI page, that, you know, the combination of the two maybe could help us out.
That'd be great. That'd be great. And again, we do have, for example, the ERG page, which is now in a SSOT format, where you can see how to join at the top. And I know each individual ERG, they're standing up there. The pages are there, but they're building them out even more. So maybe that will help as well once the pages are finalized, so that people can have a source, you know, if they want to do ERGs as an example, way of doing that. So thank you for that feedback. Thank you for that. Helen, would you like to verbalize your question?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, most Pride events around the world are cancelled this summer or winter in APAC because of COVID-19. And I was wondering if we're planning to do any kind of like digital visibility campaign. This comes off the back of a conversation I've had previously with, you know, around our talent brand. I'm just wondering if there's any kind of initiative, and if not, you know, could we do something, however simple, just to show visibility and hopefully attract LGBTQ plus candidates in the future?
Love that question. Do we have anyone from our ERG? Is Alex on the call? Yeah, I know he's one of the ERG leads from our Pride group. And if not, I'll speak to it, but they would probably be the best group to speak up to talk about what they're doing. And then if maybe Betsy might have some ideas of possibilities of branding and partnering or collaboration with them, but I'll allow them to kind of speak up first.
I can
Alex?
go. Oh, sorry.
No.
I was going to say, I can go ahead and speak to the talent brand side. We, and I'm not sure if Will Spillane or Kristen's on the call, but I'd love to work with the social team to figure out how we might approach that. And then, you know, it could be something that we have like a graphic or something that is available to all team members to be able to update their own social as well, to have kind of a broader reach. So just an initial idea off the top of my head, but I'll connect with our social team and see if they've had any ideas so far as well.
Thanks for that. I know that Erica has a comment in here as well. Erica, would you like to kind of expand on that?
Yeah, I was just saying that last year, the social team, which now the social team is new, so it'd be good to kind of pass that along. But the social team did incorporate the Rainbow Tanuki in some branding areas and do that sort of thing. So I think that would definitely be something that would continue this year. So Betsy said she'd reach out. So I just want to give some of that kind of institutional knowledge on that.
Thank you. And if anyone on the call would like to be engaged in this part of kind of, you know, this is one of those things where you think about how can I become engaged if I don't have time to do this or that, and this, you do have the time, the bandwidth, this will be a great way to get engaged with some of the background work. So please feel free to drop in your name or comments or any ideas you might have, so that if there are conversations about it, that you can be involved with the discussion. David, would you like to verbalize your question?
Sure, thanks everybody. Dave Astor, Solution Architect Manager with GitLab. Yes, when schools finally get going again, my daughter's high school has a Girls Who Code group. I'd like to get my team involved in things like that. I'd like to help out however I can. And I know I can ask the school sponsor about it, but I'm wondering if we have any advice internally on how to sponsor something like that. Have we done anything like that? Any just kind of looking for advice on that? Thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks for your question. We do have a D&I sponsorship, and I can include the link later on in the Google Doc so that you can send over. The limit is 500 that we do provide sponsorship for, as long as it meets the criteria. And we'll be glad to evaluate it. This is a great initiative, and I think that anything that speaks to what we're doing, and it doesn't have to be, in certain levels. I think, going back in STEM or getting, branding ourselves in a place where we're standing up also a value that we're thinking about is huge. So I would love to get that link to you. I'll put in the doc later.
Thanks so much.
No, thank you.
And just a quick comment from having run a similar group to that. Reach out and ask them what they need. Sometimes they need teachers' assistants, and sometimes they need teachers. And being that we have a lot of coders, if they're willing to do a digital classroom event, we might be able to help them, or you might have other team members in your area. So sometimes, like at the beginning of a season, they're really well off, but if you keep asking them, you may find towards the end of a season that they're kind of struggling to find some kind of support. And so generally reaching out, in addition to obviously $500, could go a long way.
Yeah, correct. Thank you for that. Looks like Tracy is typing in a question.
Yes, but I couldn't type and talk at the same time. Good morning, this is Tracy Robinson Williams with GitLab PMM. Wanted to ask about the opportunity to participate in the Hour of Code, which comes up in December. And it's an opportunity to engage oftentimes with underrepresented populations and giving them an opportunity to understand the opportunities opened by coding. And I've participated in this in the past in other companies, and it may be an opportunity for us to do something globally in our particular areas. And maybe it's an initiative that we could look at in supporting. It may not take a lot of resources for us to do it, but it does take some personal time and commitment. Are we open to doing something like that?
Do you know typically like what the lift would be in the past in your experiences as far as like head count to move?
Yeah, typically you go and volunteer at a school or maybe a community center, but it's basically 4 to 94. Where can you go reach people and show them what coding's about? They have a website at code.org. I participated before where I went to a homeless center where there were children who came after school, and we set up computers. We had some people who knew what they were doing and helped them walk through doing some basic low code opportunities. And they were able to see and have little kind of conversations with some of these people who had no hopes for what their career could look like in the future or what they might do to get themselves out of poverty. So there might be an opportunity for us to kind of embrace as well.
I would love that. Can you put the link in here so that we could move it forward, put in an issue, and have those who have availability join in to see what this planning will look like to execute it?
Will do.
Thank
Will do.
you. Okay. Tim?
Hey there, Candace. How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
Good, thanks. I will verbalize it and then we can maybe pile on it. I wanted to share a learning that I had in a team interview this week. The candidate is interviewing for the SA manager role on the West. She herself prides herself on attracting a diverse workforce where she is today, and she herself is an underrepresented minority. And what she shared sort of was one of those learnings that maybe everybody on this call has already had, but it was new for me. I think about attracting diverse talent, and I think about it from kind of the interview process all the way through onboarding. And then, but what I wasn't taking into account is some of the opportunity we have to attract talent that might get to a list of job responsibilities and requirements where there are very discrete numbers, like must have 8 years of experience selling to Fortune 500, or must have at least this number. Like the numbers themselves, she said that her experience as herself a female in a underrepresented minority, as well as minorities that she's worked with trying to attract, is they sometimes see that number and they self-select out. They see 8 years and they're like, well, I only have 7. Whereas maybe someone who's not underrepresented might think 7, 6, they probably 8 is their ideal, but they'll accept 7 or 6 or even 5. So it was a realization for me that we need to be super thoughtful with even the words that we're using, and specifically the numbers that we're putting in the job description. So kind of putting this out there, if this is a realization that I'm the only one having, that's fine, but wanted to share that with the group and get some feedback.
No, this is real. There's an opportunity for that. And sorry, who was about to speak? Please feel free.
I just want to say that, yeah, that absolutely is true. There's a book, Better Allies, and there's some other resources I'll try and link in here after. I've done extensive presentations on this to other corporations as well as at conferences. There's one thematic, which is people tending to be harsh on themselves about requirements, inclusive of numbers. Also, the words that you use, some words are gendered. So I know that in product, we use a gender checker on our posts before we send them out. And then I think one of the other things is sometimes just a long list of requirements will frighten people off. So making sure requirements are really requirements.
Yeah, thank you.
And we have Dave on the call too. Dave, I don't know if you want to speak to that. I know he's working on a really large model of recruiting on the back end that, you know, he can probably add a little bit of insights to this discussion.
Thanks, Candace. And Nicole, you made a great point that I'll just punctuate as well, which is all of the research would indicate that women are less likely to apply boldly when they see that longer, more quantified list of requirements, and males are more bold about putting themselves out there if they meet 30, 40, 50% of the requirements. I think the stat is that women will typically look for 80 or 90% of the requirements that they would want to fulfill. So we try to look at our job descriptions and really thoughtfully articulate, even at our intake sessions with the hiring managers, push back a little and really ask the question, is that a firm absolute requirement, or is that something that you could flex on as you got to know somebody excellent who could be a great candidate for your team? And then I think Candace was also referencing just the work that we're doing to shift to this outbound recruiting model that is very much focused and targeted. I was on with a call with the entire recruiting org yesterday and really emphasizing that on all the candidates that we source, whether they're sourcing internally from the talent community where people are welcome to join, or whether we're reaching out externally to make connections with people, that we emphasize diversity at the top of our funnel. We're looking in Q2 to bring 90% diverse talent into the top of the funnel and enrich this company's culture in a very unique way at this key time in our company's trajectory.
Well said. Well said. Thank you for that.
If I can add something, we, on my insistence, we used to have in every job posting, like, hey, you don't necessarily have to meet each and every one of the requirements. We even called out that frequently that was, I think where underrepresented minorities took them more literally than others. I don't see it anymore, so I'm not sure what happened to that. We can consider looking at what happened and then maybe add it to our CI test so that they're being brought in every job family.
Thank you for that, Sid. Thank you. And I think we captured, did we get that in there? We'll go back and address that to make sure that is added. Okay.
If I can just add a detail to that, I'm pretty sure it wasn't on the job family. It was on the hiring page in that section that came kind of automagically from Greenhouse. So it's not on the job families, but it's probably worth exploring that we should have it on the job family.
Thanks for that. Yeah, we put it in the vacancy and not in the job family, but now we don't have vacancies anymore. So that makes total sense. Thanks for that, Emily. Super helpful.
Thank you for that, Emily. I know that we are almost at time. We have about 2 more minutes to go to eat at a speedy meeting. What I would like to do is just turn this meeting to a little bit different as we close. And if I could just get a few volunteers to talk about why they're thankful in a couple of sentences to be here at GitLab, especially during a time like COVID. I think it kind of gives a contagious spirit of letting people know this is such an awesome place to work at a time like this and even prior to this. So if I could just get a couple of volunteers to speak to why you're thankful to be here at GitLab.
I can say
I'm happy to.
Oh, go ahead.
Hey, Candace. Yeah, I'm happy to. Well, first and foremost, knowing that GitLab was already in a position to continue our work prior to the start of the pandemic, having this remote culture and having the processes in place was really you know, great. I'm really grateful for that. But more so, just the constant reminders from the e-group and the managers and my personal manager of checking in to make sure we're okay, that we're taking time for ourselves, reminding us that, you know, while we want to work hard and move forward and keep the pace of the business where we can, it's also okay to take time for ourselves and our families. So that's huge for me.
Thank you, Amanda. Anybody else want to say why they're thankful?
I'll volunteer. Hi, my name is Allison. I'm, very grateful that we have an organization that realizes that, the effects of the pandemic may ultimately impact our business, and that we've adjusted our, forecasts and have passed down those adjustments to our sales team. I've never worked for an organization that has done that, and I think it's just a really, really nice gesture to pass down to the sales team and adjust their what they're being expected to deliver to the business. And I'm really encouraged by that gesture. I think it's really nice, and I'm really grateful for it.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you. We might have time for one more, and then we can close.
Candace, I'd love to add as a parent here at GitLab. So I'm a mom of one amazing remedial kid, and having a manager that said to me, hey, if you need time to teach those kids, considering we have all now become teachers as parents globally, and it's just really helped me to take the pressure off and know that I can spend extra time with his schoolwork that sometimes is super difficult for him to complete. So yeah, it's been amazing.
It has been. Thank you so much. That's powerful. And at the end of close, may we all just go out and saying, go GitLab. So go GitLab. Have a great
Go GitLab.
Go
Good
get
luck.
lab.
Go GitLab.
Go GitLab.